Hey, guess what? I've got a job that you're gonna love. Nice and easy. This is strictly a salvage mission. No crazy shit, I promise. One of those old pre-FTL generation ships from the 2000s, the Muganagwa, however the hell you pronounce that, just popped up my radar. Its disappearance was apparently some big unsolved mystery. Never made it to its destination, I guess. It's just drifting lifelessly in orbit of Antares B. I'll send you the exact coordinates. It's pretty hard to get a visual on, probably why nobody's found it before. The sponsor for this one is a historical society from the outer colonies. Here's what the objective card says. Download any log files you can, especially any that can explain what happened to the ship. If possible, speak to the security I need for assistance. It's a good easy gig and I want you to take this one. It should be asocial enough for you. I don't want to hear any complaints. Dispatch control out. Welcome to Analogue, a hate story. Now, I've played this game before, so this is the first Let's Play that I'm going to do where I actually know what I'm talking about when it comes to a game. And this game is actually filled with a lot of heavy reading, so if you're not a text-based game point-and-click fan, well, I suggest you don't bother watching this Let's Play because that's really all it's going to be. And I don't suggest playing this game either if that's the case. However, if you like this stuff, then I really suggest playing it because it has a really intricate story, and I personally really enjoy it. So let's get this show on the road, shall we? This system is property of the Unified Korea Space Probe Agency, accessed by individuals not affiliated with the UKSPA or a successor organization is a felony under the UKSPA Act of 2381. Last login user Kim Hyun I 221432. Oh. 221,432 days ago. Error. I personality currently disabled. Referring to command line. Available commands. Download, disable I, enable I, help, sue, quit. Download. Admin access required. Please use sue first. Sue. Provides administrator access. Requires password to use. Enable Enable I personality. Used to select a new AI personality. Any active personality must be disabled first. Currently available personalities. Hyun I. Enable I. Personality Hyun A is now activated. You may now close this terminal with quit. There we go. I did it! Hello? Oh my word, an external connection? Is someone out there? It's been so many years since I've spoken to anyone. Oh geez, I'm being discourteous. My apologies. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Hyun I. Hyun A, I should say. The star is, of course, silent. It just represents that I'm an AI. I control all the log-keeping systems on the Muganagawa, or at least what's left of them. Please just excuse me for 1 second. I'll give you a terminal so you can respond. There you are. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Micah. Oh dear. Sorry, can you try that again? My name's Micah. Ah, geez, my apologies. I don't know why, but what you typed just looked like garbage to me. That's bad. I think there may be a problem with my language parsing systems. Ugh. Sorry, somehow your input is getting mangled between the terminal and me. I'm so terribly sorry. Let me just try something. Can you understand this? Yes. Alright. Can you just click again to confirm that you can understand what I'm saying to you? I do understand. Very well, I have that at least. I'm afraid if we can't get text input fixed, that'll have to suffice. I really like the game for how it does that, mainly because it's probably really difficult to program text-based stuff. Well, text-based input anyway. So to just make it simple where you just point and click, just because, who knows, they might have been too lazy to want to deal with all of that extra work, it's pretty cool, because they did a good way of just bypassing it. I'm terribly sorry. It must be difficult being unable to say anything. This might be difficult then. Well, nevertheless, as the archive system AI, I'll do my best to try to help you navigate these records anyway. Unfortunately, it might be a little difficult since, well, without language parsing, you won't be able to do text searches either. Don't worry though, it's my duty to provide assistance with archive functions. I'll do my best. Right, let me see. I'll try to provide you with a sampling of logs to start out with, and you can just show me things that you want more information on. I, hope that'll be acceptable to you. That's all I can do. Well, that's all I suppose. Pardon me, let me just build you an interface to work with, so you don't have to struggle with a terminal. Yeah, because that terminal gets really confusing sometimes. Especially in this one section of the game. Very well, it's all set. And, I suppose this is a little bit awkward, but, can I just say one more thing before you get to work? Sure, I'll be nice. I'm just very happy to be working with you. I've had nobody to talk to for such a long time. It got so lonely. Yeah, you were kind of offline for like 200,000 days, which is like, I don't even know how many years. Having someone to talk to is just really, really amazing. I thought maybe I never would again. Sorry about the communication barrier, but even still. Ah, geez, I'm babbling. I won't hold you up any longer. Here's your interface. I hope it's good enough. Okay. Access log documents, I guess. There's a lot of reading that you have to do. But let's go to helpful notes first. Notes on punctuation, or pronunciation. This probably deals with the Korean language. Some very simplified rules to help you pronounce Korean names. Yeah, so here we go. Most consonants are pronounced as in English, except for the following when they're at the beginning of words. Family names are written in their traditional English spellings. Car, so a, me, a, pet, e, cut, a, core, o, I, ye, beat, so b, e, and u is rule, so rule, u, yeah. Book is, so u, j is ch, d is t, g is k, b is p. That gets really confusing. So I might just pronounce everything wrong. My apologies. Oh, hello. Actually, I was just testing that indicator icon to see if I get your attention. I just thought, it'd be a good way of letting you know when I have something to say. I mean, like, if I think it's super important, I can always just interrupt you, but, I don't want to distract you if I can help it. I mean, that'd suck, right? What kind of computer program forces herself onto you right in the middle of you trying to work? So I'll try not to do that. Anyway, that's all. I guess it worked. Carry on and I'll see the indicator again if I want to. And I'll set the indicator again if I want to tell you something. Cool. So hyun A. Okay, I'll try and remember that. Hyun A. Okay. Oh wait, a cliche to remember. Namjoon Yubi? I don't know. Men are honored, women are abased. If you can only remember one thing, remember this phrase. Really, that's just something you need to keep in mind when reading these laws. It was considered to be the natural way of things. Well, what do you think? That's stupid. I know, right? Just absolutely terrible and stupid. But that was normal. So try to keep that in mind. That's what everyone really did believe, even nearly all of the women. And if that sounds terrible to you, well, you must come from an awfully nicer society. Men are honored, women are abased. I forget what abased means. I'm just gonna quickly look that up. Yeah, ideally, depending on how you want to end the game, you should warm up to some of the two of the only characters that you actually interact with in this game. Because you can either save one, or you can save both. Just kind of depends. So warming up to both of them isn't really a bad idea if you want like the best ending. Abased. Lower on an escutcheon than is usual. So basically they're lower of charge, so women are lesser than men. Isn't that no different than how things were before for our generations? Okay. So the Kim family tree. So these are basically a whole bunch of the characters that you're going to be reading up on in this entire game. And this is the family tree, just to try and keep track of them all. Though, you know, I find it difficult to do that myself. Kim Jung-soo, Hyo Min-jung, married 294. Kim Eun-mi, Park Kang-bae, married 312. Kim Sun-hee, Oh Nam-kyu, married 316. The Pale Bride, Captain Roo In-ho, married 321. Kim Young-seok, Kim Yoon-suk Han, married 318. I have no clue if I'm pronouncing these right. I'm probably not. Official genealogies don't list women normally. Wives are noted by their family names, and daughters are omitted entirely. These are the relevant parts of what I was able to piece together from records. As far as the official genealogy is concerned, Yoon-suk is a heir of Jun-soo and was adopted in 317. Names in red are women, means the name is forever unknown. Okay. So these are all women, including this unknown woman here, and some other people, and the Pale Bride, which is mainly what this story is about, because the Pale Bride is the mystery behind everything. That's the end of the Kim family tree, as best as I could possibly manage to compile it. I'm afraid it's the best I could do. Ordinarily, women's names aren't ever put on genealogies, so I had trouble with those. I hope that helps you keep track of the family, though. Sometimes if you show a message to Hyun-a, she will have something useful to say, and other times she won't. But yeah, these are the helpful notes. And then you start off with certain data blocks, like block 4, block 9, block 6, block 10. A couple more get added over here, and I think the data blocks in general just kind of increases. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but you only get a certain amount of stories in some of these, and they all transpire in different parts of history. Okay, so we're gonna start off with block 4. A Pack of Idiots. Smith Kyun-sam. Kyun-sam. Man, I hope I'm saying these right. When our family falls into decline, I just want it to be perfectly clear why. It's because Dae-hyun's sons are the biggest collection of idiots on the entire ship. Father says these sorts of words shouldn't be written down, calling them unfilial, but I'm skeptical. I intend no disrespect to my noble ancestors, but my dead uncle is no ancestor of mine, and his family deserves no respect. This has been in motion for years now. It was an inevitability, even, that any sons of Dai Hyun would turn out the way they did. But up until now, to anyone outside of the family, it's been well hidden. Only now is it starting to fall apart in a way that no amount of good politics can disguise. The turning point was this year. At the time I write this, I am returning from Sang Jun's funeral. In that family, there were 3 brothers: Sang Jun, the drunk; Sang Hyu, the dim-witted brute; and Sang Min, who despite being the eldest, seems to have more interest in cavorting with courtesans than creating an heir. Noticeably absent from the morning proceedings was Sang Hyu. What he was doing, I do not know. Knowing him, I can only guess. The affair was made even more laughable by Sang Min and his widowed mother's insistence that Sang Jing had died of natural causes. Apparently, they had even found a doctor willing to put such nonsense on the official record. An unmarried noble managing to drink his way into the grave at only 30 years of age would be embarrassing enough. To brazenly try to hide the obvious, however, that will mark the beginning of the Smith family's fall. So he's basically kind of insinuating that there's been a murder or a suicide or something other than natural causes. And I can't remember if that's the case or not. But also, you should usually show your messages to Hyung-A because, yeah, it's helpful. So here's the background, I suppose. There were 2 major noble families on the Mugen-Nagwa. The Kims were the big one, as I'm sure you can see. The Smiths were the other major family, but I'm afraid I can't really tell you very much about them. They were the most important family on the ship until just before the end. The High Magistrate was a Smith until the very last year even. I can give you a little bit about them for reference, so you can see who the Kim thought their big enemy was. The Smiths didn't really matter very much at the end, so I don't know much about them. I certainly never met any of them, so I'm just going off what I've read. Here, this should give you an idea of what I mean. And then you get 3 more things to read. Contempt. Despite having hardly shown their faces in the entire time I have lived in the Smith house, the second branch of the family has taken it upon themselves to visit again, a week after we were forced to endure their smug and rolling at the funeral. Eye-rolling at the funeral. Of course it would have been impolite to turn them away at the door, no matter how poor taste their timing was. So what other choice did we have but to let them in? Husband wanted to have nothing to do with them, being distracted by... Oh, once beginning it's a different pronunciation. Ch. Okay. Chang Mi and mother-in-law had been hiding in her room, leaving it to me to entertain them. Of course, as soon as I had sent their son to go see our daughter, cousin-in-law Hyung-san made it quite clear that it was not that sort of visit. His wife just sat there silent while he ripped into me. I couldn't write down all his words. It was simply one line of abuse after another. Apparently we were to be blamed for Sang Hyu leaving before they showed up, for wearing the wrong mourning garb, for my husband's shocked reaction at his brother's death. In fact, we were to be blamed for his death itself. All he kept shouting about was how embarrassing for the family it was that a noble man of the Smith house had been allowed to drink himself to death. As if the real tragedy was that it looked bad. I might not have felt bad about Sang Jung dying, but the rest of the family did. To hear such words making light of their loss was appalling. Yet he kept going, shouting awful thing after awful thing, until finally the most unexpected thing happened. Mother-in-law entered the room. "What is going on here?" she asked. He stood up. "I was just passing on a message to son's wife about his disgraceful conduct, since he won't show his face himself." Then he added, "I'm embarrassed to be a Smith right now." "Do you think people don't know about our family's shame? Do you have any idea how much of a fool I look like?" I never saw a more terrifying expression in someone's face. She just glared at him. Finally, she said, "Yes, but you clearly do not, or you would have lowered your voice." It took him a moment for that to register that he was just shocked, but mother-in-law wasn't done. "Please leave," she said. "Now." They stared at each other for a good while. Mother-in-law naturally won, and with a scowl, Kyung Sam and his family departed. When they had left, I turned to her. "Thank you," I said, but she just shook her head in disgust and exited to her own room without another word. Sorry, I don't really think there's anything else about them you'd find relevant. And then sometimes when you show her messages, it really doesn't do anything, but you never know, right? Oh Sojin. I think that one was a female. By example, Smith Kyung-san. I have given up on any attempts at convincing the main branch family to get their act together, as clearly speaking reason to any of that pack of idiots is a fool's errand. Now I can only hope that their selfish destruction is quick, such that when it's my son's turn to pick up the pieces of the Smithsonian's reputation, he will be able to do it as soon as possible. He seemed far less worried about it than I am, of course. Of course, he is only a child, but the boy is mature for his years, and perhaps there is wisdom in his calmness. All we have to do is be better than them, right? He asked me while I was in a rage about the handling of the funeral. Isn't that what gentlemen do? Lead by example. He is right, of course. As a noble family, we're supposed to be an example to the middle classes and the commoners and the slaves. Perhaps so too must we serve as an example to the family of the High Magistrate and his brother. Perhaps things will not be so doomed for my son after all. It will be hard for him, of course, but the main branch family continues on this path of decay. But if any boy will grow up to be able to put things right, I believe it is him. Basically, all you end up reading about, mostly, is the nobles, and they're arguing and they're fighting, and how things end up for the Pale Bride, and the ship itself. And things get interesting. Here comes the fall, Smith Kyung-san. Here comes the fall. At least I was going to say I didn't see this coming. News that Sang-min has gotten sacked just came in, which is definitely the death of any respectability in his family. Temporary leave, it's been described as, but it's obviously a political move on the part of the emperor. I think I've got a pretty good idea of what he's playing at, too. He's hoping that making a move against Sang-min will push him over the edge, make him do something indefensibly stupid, and use that as an excuse to shuffle him off for good. It's a good plan. It'll work. Meanwhile, the Kim family seems to be up on the rise, getting ready to fill the gaps left by our collapse. Now it's all up to my son. If he's not able to rebuild after all of this, then the whole family is doomed to a permanent decline. Everything rides on him. So basically, the ending of the ship deals with their stupid politics. Though it's an interesting story regardless. But still, the ending of your ship is the result of your bad politics. It's kind of ironic. Block 6. Dear Smith, by Mute, the AI that we were supposed to, well, find. But right now she's deactivated and we aren't able to reach her. Smith Kyung-san, I don't know why you insist on putting this all in writing when we could just have a perfectly good conversation. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm happy to do it. Whatever you want, you're the man. I just think it's a little weird. I don't really get it. Anyway, as to your question, you're spot on about the Pale Bride being the focus of attention in the royal family. Not for the reasons you wanted, though. I don't know where you heard those rumors, but they are so not true. That girl, a troublemaker? No way, I don't see it. Like, it's not even convincing as a rumor. That girl is the most polite, most obedient person I've ever seen in my entire life. The idea of her fighting with her husband is completely unimaginable. In over a month, I've never so much as heard her raise her voice in disagreement. She's quiet, courteous, and does everything she's told without even the slightest hesitation. I'm sorry, but there's just no way you could possibly exploit any drama here. This is as undramatic a situation as it gets, especially not compared to what the situation with your cousin and that courtesan. Don't get me wrong, she bugs the hell out of me. The girl is just too perfect. She's young, she's beautiful, she's demure to the point where I don't even think she has a personality of her own. But she also gets along perfectly with the queen. Of course she demands all the attention of the emperor. Like, can you blame him? I'm sorry, but there's no way he's ever going to be anything but extremely grateful to the Kim family for giving her over. We've got some interesting drama going on here. Oh, written by Mute? Whoops, I'm sorry. I don't really know how I got that in there. Yeah, don't pay attention to that. Sorry, none of that really matters. I'll just go ahead and remove that. Really, I'm not normally this much of a klutz, I swear. See, and then her reaction is really, really suspicious. Access log documents. And now we're stuck with 3 blocks. Block 9. Kim Yoon-suk, the new heir. Or heir, I should say. When he died this year, my father was an absolute nobody. I don't say this to disrespect his honor. It's the complete opposite. He knew it, and that was a far worse fate than he ever deserved. It wasn't until I was maybe 16 that I even realized we were supposed to be from a noble family. Certainly we never had much of means. Father was a minor official in the interior decks and spent his last days dealing with minor peasant disputes. Of all things, peasant disputes! With the poverty we lived in, no wonder it never really sank in that we were of noble blood. Not until I met the main family for the first time. They were proud, despite the fact that I now realize that they too were suffering from our same lack of royal favor. But I could tell the difference. They hadn't given up. Their son was still alive at that time, and even though he was a child half my age, I couldn't believe his confidence. It put us to shame. Absolutely put us to shame. But their son died later that year, and my father died just a few months ago. I didn't know what we were going to do with Mother. Mother managed to convince Sister's husband to adopt me into the main Kim family. I don't think it took much. So now I'm heir, just like that. Kim Jung-soo's adopted son. Not that I have the time or position to be proud, but having spoken sincerely with my new father, I think we're on the same page. I'm going to study furiously, and I'm going to become a scholar official. What I didn't tell him was my ambition. I won't settle for any peasant jobs. I'll be better than that. I'm not going to stop until I manage to fulfill my father's dream. High Magistrate. I won't settle. I will not settle. I think Jung-soo expects me to disappoint him, but I damn well will not. If I'm heir of the Kim family, I'm not going to let him down. He wants prosperity? I'll give it to him. More importantly, I'm never going to let any other Kim son feel like his family doesn't get the recognition it deserves. Never again. I swear on my ancestors. Never again. Well, I suppose I can give you more about Yoon-suk. I don't know. I don't think you'll really find him very interesting. But here, you can see for yourself. The new happiness. Yoon-suk's wife. Dearest Mother, finally I believe Yoon-suk has grown comfortable with me. All it took was some time for me to earn his trust. Learning how to read by watching over my husband's shoulder isn't how I envisioned spending my first year of marriage. I can't complain about anything that makes me spend so much time with him, though. We've talked and decided we won't try for a son right away. Right now, he's just not ready for it. That aside, things are good. If this is what married life is like, I think I can be happy with this. We're not getting along well, and I like him. We're getting along well, and I like him. Perhaps it's not quite what I was led to expect, but it's still good. Domestic bliss indeed. Last week, Yoon-suk was reading over some papers for a dispute the magistrate park was decided on. You wouldn't understand the details, but it was essentially an argument between a farmer and his lord over a sum of money after a particularly poor harvest. I think I will tell the magistrate that the farmer is right. His claim is fair, he told me. Might I take a look, I asked. Bemused, he handed the papers to me. It took a good while of studying just to be sure, after all. I wouldn't want to contradict my husband if he was right, but farmer's numbers didn't seem to add up. I pointed this out to him. He not only listened patiently, but had me explain. Then you believe the farmer is trying to cheat his lord? Yes, I did. That's what I will report to him. The next day, he told me that the magistrate agreed, and ever since then, he has started to rely on my opinion when it comes to anything involving math. To be totally honest with you, I don't really know what she's talking about here, at all. The math thing wasn't really considered very odd at the time. That's women's work. It's just natural. Maybe it's a little weird, but she's helping with external matters, but, well, it's not that weird. The part about learning to read isn't that amazing either. It might have been officially frowned upon, but learning to read by looking over a brother or husband's shoulder was really, really common. She's making a big deal out of nothing. Well, I guess it's 15-year-old women for you. A lot of this history that you read on it relates back to a lot of Asian culture and how things were back then. Kim Boon-suk, the new friendship. While it's true that I might be, as my wife suggests, alarmingly serious, it's hard to argue with enjoying a nice meal out of it. Out of it means cultivating Magistrate Park's trust even more. Just having the invitation alone's a pretty good sign. I assumed we would be going to his house after finishing with the day's affairs, but instead he led the other way. Oh, you do not want to visit there. My son has a newborn child who is very, very unconducive to entertaining guests, I'm afraid, he said with a laugh. Surely you'll understand. Instead, we headed to the plaza. Outside of the occasional New Year's festivals, when I was a child, I had never actually been there before. I never had much of an eye for details at the time, so I was surprised to see now just how richly decorated everything was for what was essentially a giant market. Beautiful floral arrangements adorned every stall, wall, and partition, and rather than the commotion of a crowd, all I could hear was the sound of peaceful music. It was still, of course, a market where there were no merchants loudly hawking wares, and some of the prices on the signs I saw would make the emperor blush. In that atmosphere, we ate together at a public house that defied my expectations. The food was both plentiful and far better than anything I'd ever had in either of my houses. If this sounds indulgent, it absolutely is, and I definitely don't plan on telling anyone the details like this. The only thing I plan to repeat from this evening is what the magistrate confided in me, that when he was moved from his position, he'd like to recommend me to fill his place. I'd be young for the position, but it would be a great stepping stone to the one I'm dreaming of. I remained calm, since I'm good at that, but it's the best news I've heard in my life. The plaza sounds like a really interesting place, doesn't it? I mean, I wouldn't really know personally, but as I understand it, it was the big place for celebrating festivals, and really surprising to see. You'd leave one of the few tiny modern starlight corridors that led to it, then suddenly there was this huge open space, filled with all sorts of colorful signs and vendors. I think proper gentlemen were supposed to be more modest though, so they wouldn't really want to associate with that sort of thing too openly. So basically, this ship is fucking huge. It can hold a lot. The new magistrate, Yoon-suk's wife. Dearest Mother, if you haven't already heard the good news, my husband has been appointed by the Emperor to the position of magistrate. He's taken over the office from Magistrate Park starting today, which is just tremendous for a man his age. I have no doubt that he was perfectly humble when he got the news, since he certainly has been while talking about it in front of father-in-law. In private, though, he's another story. Earlier, the family had a small feast to celebrate the news, and he had the same attitude then, too. But afterwards, when everyone had left or gone to bed, we stayed up to sit together drinking wine, and it was a whole lot more somber. He wasn't modest, but he wasn't boastful either. He was just outright insecure. He might not say it in front of you, but you know what, he said to me as I poured him more wine. He takes all the credit for my promotion. According to him, it's all because of the Emperor's perfect new bride, which is of course all because of him, I said quietly. I don't want to take credit for her. I wasn't the one who got her to shut up. That was all him. I don't like discussing it, and please, Mother, don't ever ask me why. Doesn't matter, he said. That's not why I got promoted. I got promoted because now High Magistrate Park, and I managed to make Smith look so bad that he had to get shuffled off. It's exposing the whoring and thuggery that did it, not the damned pale bride, he said with annoyance. See? The pale bride showed up again. Well, that's how he is. You know he'll never give you credit for anything, he said. I said. He replied, I know. I just wish he'd acknowledge it. I just don't know how he can be so stupid as to not be proud of me, you know? I know, I said. Well, let's not focus on that right now. I think we should focus on the good right now. How about we toast to your success instead? Here's to the new Magistrate Kim. I raised my glass and drank. He betrayed the faintest of smiles, but he didn't share my toast, and instead put down his glass. For a moment I was worried, but then he used that hand to grab my chin instead, and for the first time ever, kissed me, on the mouth. Far sweeter than any wine, he said to me. I wasn't sure if he meant the kiss or the success, but I agreed either way. Well, as you'll see soon enough, it all seems to come back to the pale bride. I don't think Kim Jung-soo ever thought very much of his adopted son, or at least neither he nor his wife thought so. You want to know what I think, though? Sure. I think they're both really dumb. I mean, it's not like she ever did anything. It's not her fault. She just happened to be there and was married as a political gesture. What kind of person projects their insecurities onto someone who only ever just got pushed around? Sorry, I guess I'm getting a little bit off track here. That's not really very helpful, is it? It is. Well, anyway, getting back on track here. So block 4 and block 9 have been completely read up. Now there's just block 10. Marital Admonitions, Part 7. Ru Che Hua, I think is how you pronounce it. To the woman who will marry my husband, but please do not think that all of this is meant to say you will be unloved. You may be a second wife, but you are still the daughter of a noble house, and that is a precious gift to the Rue family. My husband has faith that you will bring him a son, and this means all the world to him. Nor am I jealous, for you will relieve a heavy burden on our house, and for that I am grateful. As proof of his affection for you, let me share with you one secret, which I have been permitted to tell only you. In honor of you, my husband, in his capacity as captain and emperor, has permanently changed his admin password to your birth name. My new sister. You will be brought into the Rue family not as a mere lowly woman, but a symbol of power in the inner chambers. You will not only represent the continuation of the Rue bloodline by providing it a son, but your very name will represent the power of the captain's computer. So, whoever this mystery woman is, her real name is Sue. Understand this, pale bride. Your duty may be great, but you will be loved. So the pale bride's real name is Sue. Hey, I just wanted to say, thanks for paying attention to me. It's like I was saying earlier, I just haven't had anyone to talk to in so long. The last time there was anyone around on this ship was the year 322. By my count, it's now 944. I mean, do you have any idea how long that is? It wasn't really so bad at first. It was nice to not have to worry about anyone telling me what to do. I could just occupy myself, go through the old logs, but, well, I read quickly. After the first few years, it really started to sink in, the loneliness. Eventually, you start to get used to it. It feels awful. You never like it, but you get used to it in ways that sort of scare you. There was a whole 100 years that went by where I didn't have a single thought, not a one. I just sat there idle. I didn't even notice, I've been feeling particularly, what's the word? Sleepy, I want to say, but that's not right. I guess maybe that doesn't translate. Anyway, the point is, I was in a lazy mood, and I decided to call my clock's subroutine. And it turned out it had been 3 trillion milliseconds since the last time I called it. Scary. Geez, I'm rambling. Sorry. As you can understand, my perception of time is all off. Sorry, I'll shut up. But my point is, I'm really happy there's someone out there. Ah, of course, the last person to hold the titles, Captain and Emperor on the ship was Rue and Hall. Which of Captain Rue's wives do you wish to know more about? The Pale Bride. Very well, she wrote a lot, so this is going to be tricky to filter. I guess I'll just start at the top, and I'll let you figure out what's important. I think there's an entire block that's dedicated to her. Yeah, block 5. The Month of Good Fortune, Kim Jung-soo. The second month of the 319th year was one of the greatest fortune for the Kim family. While on official business, the Captain and Emperor Rue confided in me that he wished that I had a daughter of marriage age to give him, to take as a second wife. His first wife had been unable to provide a son and was becoming increasingly concerned that she never would. At the start of the month, I had no daughter in my family to give. My only son, Young-suk, was still without child, yet it was a perfect opportunity. This may sound fantastical, but I swear it is true. Passed on through the generations of the main branch of the Kim family is a giant egg of translucent luster, such that one can see the form of a sleeping child inside. She is known as the Pale Bride for the inscription on her egg, and she was entrusted in our family to be awakened during a time of great prosperity. Yet as any man knows, prosperity is seized, not waited on. A daughter to provide the emperor with a son would elevate the family above the other noble house once and for all. Considering this, I promised the emperor that I did have a daughter who would soon be of marriage age to present him. Then I smashed the egg, such that the Pale Bride passed through the Kim family for years could be adopted as my own daughter. She is a strange child, but will make a fine wife for the emperor. What good fortune this means. I'm afraid nearly everything the man wrote was of very little value. It all reads like that, boring, stiff, obnoxious, patriarchal. Are you sure you really want more than King soup? If you insist. Very well, I've added the other relevant entries from him. I'll caution you from taking them seriously now. The Pale Bride, the first entry you could ever get. Broken promise. Dear Diary, last week I woke up from cryostasis. Before I went in, Father promised me that when I woke up in the future, if they'd have medicine in him, that I'd finally get better, that I might not see him again, that his descendants would make everything right. But the future broke his promise. I'm scared and confused, and I don't get what happened. I think there was a big disaster while I was in stasis or something. Everyone's so uneducated and stupid. Father and Mother were kind of dumb at times, but the guy who woke me up, he might be named Kim, but he's nothing like them. Father was wrong. Nothing's better. The future sucks. The Pale Bride did keep an extensive diary. I'll try to find you some more entries. So basically, she's a human from the past who was very sickly and was just kind of kept in this container until it was the future and she could be healed. But then shit went and hit the fan. Oh god, lots of reading. I think I'll leave it off here though, because, well, I'll leave it off here because, well, there's a lot of reading and I've already done a lot. Talked your ears off probably, as well as I've talked my mouth to shit. So yeah, this, well, this is the game. This is Analogue, a hate story.